This week on Animal Miracles, a veteran seaman plunges off a dock into dark and icy water.
I tried to make my way out and get back up on the dock, and I just could not do it.
Unseen and unheard by anyone but his faithful dog, will his trusty companion know what to do to save him?
I was just about losing consciousness, and Hunter could realize that there was something wrong with me.
But first, a gentle, timid donkey named Rawhide undergoes a sudden change of character when two vicious dogs threaten the man he loves.
And they started circling. One was coming up on our right, the other on our left, so we stopped.
These stories and more this week on Animal Miracles. The Mojave Desert. Donkeys are a common sight here. These wild burros roaming the hills and valleys are the lucky ones. They live a hard but relatively peaceful existence. Many of their domestic cousins, however, suffer painful abuse.
Donkeys run somewhat like steers, and so the cowboys will use them to rope their back legs for practice.
Come on, man. Be on back.
Mark and Amy Myers run the Peaceful Valley Donkey Rescue. They've seen every kind of neglect and mistreatment. But they'll never forget the condition of the donkey they brought in from a horse trader 2 years ago. He'd been a roping target. They named him Rawhide.
In Rawhide's case, he had been roped, tied out to the saddle to actually pull his legs out from underneath him, and that's what leaves the scars.
All the hair was gone off of his legs. There was no hair on his ears.
His nose had been split, he's missing a tooth, so he had had ropes going all over his whole body.
It was just such a horrible picture. Even the kids were just silent. They just couldn't believe what they were seeing.
But it was Rawhide's broken spirit that really touched Mark.
Rawhide was sad, is the only way to put it. He hangs his head low, his ears are non-responsive. He was at a point where he was so fed up with the contact. Every time he got near people, it hurt. We see a lot of donkeys, see a lot of abuse, a lot of physical injuries, but with him, it was just sadness.
Rawhide wanted nothing to do with human beings. Attempting to bring him around, gentling him, would be Mark's greatest challenge.
In order to gain Rawhide's trust, I had to make myself vulnerable to him. I had to give him the upper hand.
Come here.
So I make myself very small, I sit on the ground.
Come on.
For weeks, Mark sat quietly in the pen to show Rawhide that he meant him no harm. Week after week passed with no progress.
The one thing that I think that I have is patience. I'm never in a hurry.
Finally, a small breakthrough.
He would start to make some steps towards me. Not coming in so he could touch me, but just a few steps towards me. He was inquisitive. He wanted to know what I was about.
You're okay. You're okay. Come here. Come here now.
And then slowly, as that trustee and I would start making slow movements to him and closing the gap. And then after a period of time when I felt he was ready, then I moved forward and I laid hands on him.
But Rawhide still resisted. He let Mark approach face to face where Rawhide could see him and could get away. And from behind, where he could still give Mark a good, hard defensive kick. Mark knew the real test would be to get beside Rawhide, where a donkey is most vulnerable.
When you can work into a donkey's shoulder, that's when you gain their trust. And I move very slowly, I turn sideways because I don't want to appear too big to him, until I could get right next to his shoulder. Now he's letting me into his weakest place. And once I have that, then I have him. When I was able to finally break through with Rawhide, it was such an incredible feeling. The look in his eyes, it went from one of sadness to one of relief. You've done something that's altered the course of this animal's life. He'd never known anything but pain and suffering and sadness. And now, you've earned that trust.
I don't really know what clicked in him, but Rawhide knew at some point that this man was okay and he was going to be all right with him.
Rawhide's trust grew into absolute loyalty, and he began to follow Mark everywhere.
He's missing a tooth, did you know that?
Yep, that's from the rope is getting hit in the face with the rope.
Soon Rawhide became comfortable with other people as well. While most of the donkeys developed a special bond with one of their fellow animals, Rawhide turned to Mark.
Ticklish? Huh? You ticklish or what?
Rawhide always has to come over and hug me. He's got to lay his head on my shoulder, and he'll just stand there, breathing deeply. Sometimes he'll close his eyes. He never found a buddy. Most donkeys have buddies, and I'm Rawhide's buddy.
Good job.
Whenever I go on a long hike, I'll take Rawhide because I enjoy the company. It gives me somebody to talk to, gives me somebody to hang out with. I take him because it's more of like taking your best friend.
Head now, Rob.
That friendship was about to be put to the ultimate test when we returned. At the Peaceful Valley Donkey Rescue, an abused donkey's fear of humans was overcome by Mark Meyer's patience and gentleness. Soon the donkey he named Rawhide would repay that kindness.
Come on now, Rawhide.
It was a very cool day, a great day for hiking. Clear day, no real wind, nice little breeze.
But late in the afternoon, Rawhide seemed agitated.
Oh, now, Rob. Head on now.
Then Mark spotted something moving in the distance.
Two big, large, black dogs. We didn't pay much attention at first, but I kept a wary eye on them.
Come on up this hill. Come on now.
For an hour, the dogs followed, then disappeared into the desert brush. With Mark and Rawhide miles from any help, the dogs reappeared.
And they started circling. One was coming up on our right, the other on our left, so we stopped.
Sorry, buddy. Go on, get out of here.
I didn't want them to come up behind me or Rawhide, either one. It wouldn't be fair to have, Rawhide get attacked.
But Rawhide was just as concerned about Mark.
Rawhide started to circle me. He was going into protection mode. He wanted to make sure that I was safe from these dogs. So as the dogs were circling, they're snarling and growling at us. And he would just keep moving slowly around. Rawhide took control of the situation. He knew there was danger, and so he just kept circling me very slowly. I thought we were going to get attacked.
Mark released Rawhide from the harness, hoping his friend would use his speed to get away, to save himself.
And he charged him. That was his moment of glory. As he's running after him, he takes one of his front hooves and he pounds it into the back of one of the dogs, and that dog goes squealing off. And he closes in on the second, and that dog's at a dead run. Rawhide has his ears pinned, his teeth are showing, and he chased both those dogs well out of sight.
The dogs were gone, but so was Rawhide.
I waited. I waited for him to come back. And when he didn't return, I started to get really worried. 2 against 1 is never a fair fight.
Mark feared that Rawhide was in serious trouble.
So I started to track him. You're always thinking the worst. Every step you're thinking, oh my God, is he okay? And here he came. Just trotting over the hill, as happy as could be because he had done his job.
Rawhide. Come here, buddy. You okay? Are you all right? Good job.
And there was just such a look of elation in his eyes that I think he felt he had finally paid me back.
Let's go home.
Rawhide has always held a special place with me, always, from the day he came here. But after an experience like this, the bond is just so incredible that I can't say enough about it.
It really just reinforced what we try to tell people about these animals and their personalities and the bond that they can have with their owners.
Hey. Everybody mind your manners.
Because of that bond, Rawhide was willing to put his life on the line to protect his best friend, Mark.
The miracle is how much Rawhide loves. He has taken all that sadness in his life and he's forgotten about it. And he's turned that into a love relationship with me and with all people now. And it's like he started life again. This incident was his opportunity to square things up, to pay us back for what he's received here.
Who wrote "Nonviolence leads to the highest ethics, which is the goal of all evolution. Until we stop harming all other living beings, we are still savages." Inventor Thomas Edison. Coming up next, when retired seaman Keith Thorpe rescues a neglected dog named Hunter, he doesn't realize he'll soon need the dog to return the favor.
Little Hunter boy saw me struggling trying to crawl out the river with my old legs.